What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coming to Jesus podcast. I am Brittany Kia, and let's just dive right in. So, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope that everyone has been persevering through whatever challenges they may have been facing. I pray that you guys are building yourselves up spiritually and all of the things, because that spiritual warfare is real, y'all. It's so real. One thing that I have been struggling with like the last couple of weeks is really getting into my word like how I have in the past. Like, I don't even want to say I haven't felt like reading the Bible, because it hasn't even been that. It's just been difficult to just sit and read. Like, I don't know. I guess it is almost like a feeling of not wanting to. And one of my really good friends, we were kind of talking about this in this group chat that we have with a few women that are walking with Christ and things of that nature. And we were just kind of chatting about it, and we all were kind of feeling the same thing. And one of the ladies just was like, yeah, that's that spiritual warfare. The devil will try to get you out of the word, because once you're not in your word and it becomes a habit, that it's a habit, it's kind of difficult for you to lean back into that. Or even like when you're not making sure that you're doing it excuse me, when you're not making sure that you are reading your word on a daily basis, then you leave yourself susceptible, I don't even know if I just said that right, but it don't matter, to more spiritual attacks, because you don't have on your the full armor of God at that point. And then that's when the devil can really get you, because you're not in that word. So once you get out of the word, I think that everything else kind of falls behind that. Or even if you get out of prayer, then everything else kind of falls behind that. So once you stop getting in your word as much, your prayer life may dim a little bit. Or once you stop praying as much, your reading the word may dim a little bit, and it's just like a train reaction. So one thing I've been trying to do is keep myself disciplined within reading my word, or reading the word every day, even if it's just for a few minutes, because it's very important that we are getting our daily dose of God every single day. Like I've noticed that when I don't, I just feel, I don't even want to know, I don't want to say icky, but I just don't feel right when I'm not in the word how I should be. When I first started my walk with Christ, when I say hours and hours and hours of reading the Bible on my phone, reading the Bible, wake up, read the Bible, before I go to bed, read the Bible, middle of the day, read the Bible. And I had a lot of free time on my hands, so I was able to do that. And it seems like now that I'm becoming a little more busy, it's becoming a little more difficult to stay committed to reading the word, because I'm tired, or I gotta go run this errand, or I gotta go run this errand. And I start work next week, so I know that this is about to be the ultimate test, because I'm gonna be going to work during the day and working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week possibly, and that's about to be the ultimate test for me. And I know that right now it's crucial for me to stay consistent in that word, because honey, otherwise that devil gonna get you. and he gonna get you, and them spiritual attacks can become much worse. Like, I think that the devil starts with attacking like your daily routines with prayer and reading the good news, just so he can hit you with something even worse. Like, once I get you out of doing that, then I really can get you where I want you at, and you become, and this is not for everybody, but it'd be easier for you to fall back into old habits if you're not taking up these new habits that you have developed every day, because you are lacking within it, or just not feeling like it. Like, it's just like going to the gym. The only way to see the results are to stay consistent, right? And once you miss, I don't know how many of y'all go to the gym, but I know my gym routine, it fluctuates so much. One week I'm consistent, the next week I'm not. But then that next week, if I try to be consistent again, my body feels it. Like, it just, you keep having to restart this process of the consistency. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You keep trying till you get it right. As long as you don't give up and just go months and months and months without picking up your word, or going months and months where you're not praying. Like, that's a real dangerous game. And yeah, so I just wanted to start with that. That's just a challenge that I've been facing these last couple of weeks. Let me know some of the challenges you guys have been facing, and maybe we can talk about it. Let this be a space where we can grow and help each other through these challenges, offer each other advice or words of encouragement or whatever, just so we can get through these times, because it gets difficult. It really does. It really, really does. So yeah, this week, y'all, we are going to touch on the topic of comparison. Now, comparison is, I feel like, something that we as people kind of naturally do sometimes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on purpose. Sometimes I think it is unconsciously, and I do think that it's developed at a very young age. Like, you could be a kid and you see somebody with a toy that you want. Now you want that toy, like, it's just something that we kind of just do. And it's just like, it's just one of those things that we do. And we live in the age of this technology and social media and things of that nature. So it's really easy to see things and compare ourselves to what we see other people doing. And that's something that, for a while, especially when I really got on social media, because I didn't even make an Instagram. I had Instagram a little bit through high school, but I didn't have a phone for real. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I didn't make an Instagram for real until 2020. So during the pandemic. And I noticed once I got on Instagram and was seeing what other people were doing and how other people were doing it, I found myself comparing what I was doing to what other people were doing. It really took a toll. I was in a relationship at that time, and it really took a toll on my relationship at one point, because I would see these couples on Instagram living a certain way, doing certain things, and I wanted that. And it was very unrealistic for a 19, 20-year-old, because I was 19, turning 20, for some of the things that I was seeing and just all of that, like all of that. And it took for me to, I don't even really know, like, I guess I just got to a point where I was like tired I was tired of comparing myself to people. I was tired of not loving myself or the situations that I was in. I was tired of just everything, for me to really take a step back and be like, okay, like, this is not, I can't keep comparing myself to people that, for one, I don't even know, and for two, like, social media is not reality, right? We know a lot of people get on social media and front, like like, that's just what it is. Like, a lot of people are not even living the lifestyles that they claim to be living on the internet, or they're putting themselves in bold positions to get some of the things that they have, and just a whole laundry list of things. So yeah, we gonna dive a little deeper. We gonna see what God has to say about comparison. So first scripture that I would like to touch on is Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 21, and Deuteronomy holds the 10 commandments, as well as Exodus 20. Where's it going? So Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 21 says, "You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land, his male or female servants, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." So basically, that's just saying, covet is basically just wanting what someone else has, right? The Lord commands us to not want what other people have. And we still make the mistake of wanting what other people have, not knowing what they had to go through to get there, what they did to get it, because some things are not even of God, right? We want these things that we see these people living these lavish lifestyles, and it's no telling what they did to get those things, And do you really want something because you want it, or do you really want something because you see somebody else with it? And that's where asking God to remove desires on your heart that don't belong to you comes in. Like, I had to pray that prayer multiple times, because I was just looking at some of the things that I claim to want, and I'm like, wow, do I even really want these things? Like, does my heart want these things? Do God want these things for me? Because just because you want it doesn't mean that God has to give it to you, right? He's still going to give you what he sees fit, because he knows what you need more than you know what you need. Like, you might want it, but do you need it? And it's like, really check the reasoning behind why you want it. Is it because you want to impress other people? Is it because you want to flex, like, or you want to feel better than, even with like my Behind the Label podcast that I was doing, once I prayed that prayer of God removing desires from my heart that didn't belong to me, the desire for that podcast slowly started to diminish. The desire for even being like, everybody wants to be a millionaire, right? But why do you want to be a millionaire? Like, because you see other people being a millionaire? Like, even the desire for that slowly just left me. Like, I don't desire a lot of the things that I used to desire, because they were not desires of my own. They were me coveting because I seen other people with them. And when you remove yourself from it and ask God to put his self in it, then everything just kind of shifts. It does a complete 180, because everything that you thought you wanted, you probably don't even want for real. You probably just seen somebody else with it and it looked good, because I think, especially within the social media age, a lot of people, and myself included, want to live this certain kind of lifestyle, right? We want to live lavishly. We want to have the riches, some of us the fame and all of the things, because it looks cool, you know? It looks cool, it looks fun, it looks carefree, but what we don't see is, like I said, the things that these people had to do to even get to that point. We don't see the things that people had to go through to get to that point. Like, at the end of the day, we're all humans having this experience. We're all going through stuff, right? Somebody could have got dragged through the mud to get to where they got. And we don't want to go through the mud. We just want what they have, you know? Like, we don't know what people really have to go through in order to obtain the blessings that God may have for them. But don't get it mistaken, because the devil can give you stuff too. I just want to keep reiterating that. And because it's real. It's real. You know, that's why a lot of people are in the positions of power that they have. Because the devil gave them everything they wanted on a silver platter. But you gotta know that comes with some other stuff behind it. But we ain't got to get too much into that. Another thing that I'm sitting here thinking about is just the fact that a lot of people, or some people, want certain things because of the lack of confidence that they have within themselves and maybe their upbringing. I'm just thinking about I can't remember. I think it's called Quiet on Set, about the whole thing of what was going on behind the scenes at Nickelodeon. And I'm thinking of Dan Schneider and how he was a kid that, you know, really didn't fit in and things of that nature. And then he wanted all these things so he could finally feel like he had a place within this world and be a person of power. Like, I'm not the person at the bottom anymore, you know? And you never want to come from that space, because then that just hardens your heart so much and you just become a not so good person to be around. And, you know, you want people to love being around you. If nobody want to be around you, then what you gonna do, you know? You don't want to treat people like crap to get where you're going, because you just feel like that's what you want so bad, because there's a lot of stuff that comes with the fame and the riches and the power and all of those things. And it's a reason why God doesn't really want us to, it's not that he doesn't want us to have those things, but he would rather you go through him to get it, because he's not going to give you something that he knows is going to change you into that kind of person. Why would I give you that if I know that it's going to harden your heart towards me? Like, I was praying one day and I just was like, Lord, if me having millions of dollars means that I don't have to have, or I don't have a relationship with you, keep it. Like, I don't want it, because yes, it looks cool and it looks fun, and, you know, of course we all want that financial freedom that we always hearing about, but the reality of it is I would rather have God over the money. And that brings me to James chapter 4. James chapter 4 verse 2 says, you desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet but cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. So that really, like, is, I feel like, to sum up everything, the kind of world that we're like living in, when you just see how people are behaving and the extremes that people go in order to get certain things, right? He says, asking you shall receive. But it also says, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives. And God looks at your heart posture more than anything else. Like I just said, if I know that if I ask you, or if you ask me being, I'm not God, but like, if you ask him, let me say that, if you ask him for something and he knows that if he gives it to you, that you're going to turn away from him, why would I give it to you? And then sometimes, like when we pray for things, we just automatically think that God is supposed to make it happen on our behalf. Like, no, first of all, if it's not in his will, it's like, come on now, he already has a set thing for what he has for your life. So if you're asking for things outside of that, it just may not be it. Or, you may ask for things when you're not ready. Or you may just be asking for things simply because you see other people with him, so now you want it too. And your heart's not in the right space. I'm not going to, like, that's like a kid asking you for something. Or you asking anything. I think y'all get the point. But like, we all be guilty of desiring things that seem so far out of our reach, or not even that seem so far out of our reach, but just desire things that sometimes are not even realistic to what the circumstance is right now at the very moment. And it's okay to dream big, but also you can't live in delusion. I think it was one of the trends, I guess I'll call it a trend, that I seen that kind of made me side-eye was just people being so comfortable and outspoken about being in their delusional era. And it's just like, it's nothing cool about being delusional. Like, I think that even when you think of how, just for example, America was built and founded, it was this desire of having things that they couldn't have, and so they were willing to kill and do everything else in order to obtain what it is that they wanted. Don't allow your desires to make you go to extremes to have it, because everything that's done in the dark comes to light, and God sees all. You may be able to hide your hand to people, but you can't hide your hand to God. Like, at the end of the day, if you don't take nothing else from this, it's like one of those, they say you never know who's watching. Just know God is always watching. You never know on this, where like somebody may always see what you're doing, like, but God always sees what you're doing, and he's going to, play that back to you, on Judgment Day. He's gonna ask you, I'm sure, well, I ain't sure, but he may ask you, like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? So don't think that you ever one-upping on God, because you're not. It's just not. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And yeah, so I think another thing, I always talk about one thing. Another thing, I had a friend that, we were kind of talking, and she was just basically like, in a way, I ain't say in a way, she was comparing like her walk with God to a few other people's, and I know it kind of made her feel bad that she wasn't where she saw other people at. in their relationship with God. And I just want to say, like I said earlier, like I've been there and wondering why, like, dang, why God don't talk to me in a way that he talked to other people? Why God don't do this for me the way he doing it for other people? And one thing about it, like, God works so differently in everyone's lives. Like, we're not all on the same trajectory with God. We all have our paths with God, and those are going to look, sometimes they're going to look similar, but a lot of times they're going to look very different. God doesn't speak to me the way that he speaks to you, because maybe you don't understand in the way that I understand. Or maybe it's easier for him to talk to me in this way, but he has to go in a different route, you know, to talk to you this way. And I remember I had fasted for a few days. And one thing that I was hoping for out of that fast was like some kind of clarity, I believe. And at the end of my fast, I was so upset. Like, I was crying because I'm like, oh, I just fasted and you didn't even, you know, come up in the way that I, you know, thought that you would come up. I think that even with the videos, and there's so many of them on how to hear God's voice and just things like that, like all those things are still subjective to who you are and things of that nature, because it does not look the same for every person. And I had to really take a step back, and even out when I got out of the fast, he kind of, you know, told me like, hey, you know, you're not everybody else. You're not everybody else. I speak to you the way that I speak to you, and it's not going to look how it looks with everybody else. And don't be hard on yourself either, because you are in the more earlier stages of your walk with me. You're trying to figure it out just like everybody else, yes. But some people have been doing this a lot longer than you. And yes, sometimes that doesn't mean anything, but it's okay. Like, you're still learning, you know? Don't be so hard on yourself about what you're not doing or comparing your walk with anybody else's. Because like I just said, everybody's walk just looks different. The way we all find or are found within God looks different. It's just not going to be the same. That's just like saying all our spiritual gifts are the same. Like, I don't prophesy. I don't do none of that. I don't speak in tongues. Like, I don't do that stuff. And it would be foolish of me to compare myself to someone that does do those things, because God didn't give me those gifts, you know? You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying? Y'all picking up what I'm putting down. But ooh, Lord. What is this? Hebrews 13:5 says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you and never will I forsake you. And that just one thing that plays back into the point of the seeing these people and these celebrities and influencers and all of these people, you know, living these lavish lives. Don't let money be your downfall, because I think that's one thing in this society, like, we all could use, not we all, but we could use more of, you know, economy sucks right now, you know, inflation and things like that. So it's like stuff is steady going up, but a lot of people are not making more money. And so it's really easy to get wrapped up in that. Like, I definitely understand and I definitely get it. And with that, I would just say, I think detoxing from social media is very important, as well as understanding that your life is yours of your own, and you would never be happy. You would never feel joy if you're constantly comparing your life to someone else's. Your life is not their life, just like theirs is not yours, you know? It could be people, it's people in this world that have less than what you may have, and they wish that they had half of what you have, and you're not even happy or content or grateful for what you have. You steady seeking and wanting more than what you already have, and it's just like, dang, you know? In an instant, I could take all of these things away from you. Or not me, but you know what I mean. God could take all these things away from you, or you could lose it all. Because he does that, you know what I'm saying? And he does that when you come from a space of not being grateful or idolizing, things and people and things of that nature. Like, I'm going to strip you in order for you to start over and be grateful for what I'm giving you, and having a different perspective on what it is that I'm giving you. Because you could easily go without, because there are people going without. If you have clothes to wear, a roof over your head, food to eat, and water to drink, that is a blessing. That's a blessing, and that's not to be taken for granted. Just because you don't have the newest shoes or the newest clothes, or you don't live in the biggest house, like, okay, so what? Like, why does any of that matter? I don't think it does. And I've been guilty of that. I won't sit and be fake and act like I ain't been guilty of that. But we as people, we always want more and more and more and more and more, and don't even understand, like, consumerism. I could do a whole thing about consumerism. But they use these tactics on us, though, in order to keep us in this space of always wanting more, and never being happy with what we have, never being content with what we have. And they use comparison. And when I say they, I mean like these companies and things of that nature. They use these things for comparison to kill your spirit, to kill your confidence, to make you insecure. And unfortunately, it works in a lot of instances. Like, a lot of people are unhappy and are miserable because they just can't find the happiness and the contentment with the things that they already have. Like, or even like, God blesses you with something that you want, and then you're not happy with that. You're going to look for something else to suffice, because now you want something bigger and you want something better. And it's like, dang, he just gave you this, like, just be happy with that for a while. You don't have to always jump from thing to thing. And excuse me, my husband, or my fiance, told me that when we moved into our place, because I'm like, okay, like, this is cool, but like, okay, I'm ready to, on to the next. I'm already thinking a year ahead of where I could be at. And it's just like, dang, let's just bask in this. Let's just bask in this for a little while, like, and it comes from a place of what we see other people doing. We feel like we should have that. And it's just unfortunate, for real. It's very unfortunate. And yeah. I feel like I've just been yapping. Like I said, if you don't take anything else from this, I just pray that for whoever's listening that struggles with comparing yourself, like, I pray that you just find contentment with you and the things that you have. And sometimes that means taking a deeper look into maybe things that you've been through, in your past, that makes you feel like you have to compare yourself. Like, who told you you weren't good enough? And just things of that nature. Because those things play a part in why we may compare ourselves to other people. If people put us down, if people always made us feel less than, then it's difficult to not want to compare yourself. But the 10th commandment says, do not covet. You feel me? So at that point, you breaking the commandment. We breaking the commandments. And sometimes you don't even think that deep into it, but you breaking it. And we don't want to do that. We want to thrive to keep God's commandments. and things of that nature. So yeah, I pray that this was enlightening for someone. I pray that you guys have a blessed week, and thank you, Holy Spirit, for your presence within here in this room and within me. And if you have a testimony that you would like to share, you could always DM me at Coming to Jesus Pod, or I'll link my personal Instagram as well. Either or is fine. And yeah, I will see you guys later.
I'm grateful. I didn't even know that I was able. Make a plan, then put it on the table. You gonna be the one there when nobody just